Yes, well, obviously in two different senses. Actually, Paul said the gospel was preached ahead of time, in advance, through Abraham. But the gospel was always also preached in Genesis, you know, the famous proto-evangelium. So the gospel is preached by all the prophets also. But the beginning of the public ministry of Jesus, or rather, I should say, the John the Baptist ministry, is where it all begin. That's exactly what Luke 16:16 says, that the law and the prophets, that's the old covenant, especially with the Mosaic law, was up until John. And from John's preaching of the kingdom onwards, you're dealing with the New Testament preaching of the kingdom. So relax a little bit. You can have a statement which has a double application, if you like. Yes, of course the gospel was preached to Abraham. If you haven't understood the Abrahamic covenant and promise to Abraham, you haven't understood the gospel. But the public ministry of Jesus and John the Baptist begins, as you know, in the New Covenant scriptures, which are in Greek, by the way. Don't go all Jewish roots and say you have to pronounce words in Hebrew. Doesn't matter. Jesus is the name of the evangelist, prophet, Son of God, Messiah, who preached the gospel following John the Baptist. They preached the same gospel of the kingdom. If you haven't got the gospel of the kingdom straight and clear, you really are reading the New Testament in a big fog. There's only one gospel. The gospel of the kingdom and salvation in Jesus was preached ahead of time, in advance by the prophets and by Abraham. That's absolutely clear. But the historical ministry of John and Jesus, of course, initiate a new era. Not that really the content of the gospel has not changed. Abraham believed God, and that belief was about land, that's the kingdom, about prosperity and property and progeny. All of those are gospel themes. So there's a continuity right from Genesis onwards, but particularly with Abraham. The Abrahamic covenant is absolutely vital to your understanding. And then the Davidic covenant, the empire of David restored, is what the gospel is all about. Please sometimes read Amos chapter 9, marvelous statement about the reestablishment of the kingdom, the rebuilding of the town of Sukkot, probably, maybe a mistranslation there in your Bibles where you have the booth of David. There's a pointing issue, that doesn't matter, but that may actually be a town east of Jordan. That's going to be rebuilt. That's where David did a lot of his fighting from. That empire of David, the empire of Jesus, the empire of the saints, Daniel 7. You're going to show all your friends, I hope, all the time. Daniel 7, 18, 22, 27, which says that all the nations and kingdoms and languages under the whole heaven. So forget about going to heaven. Put the idea of going to heaven, or talking about heaven as your future, put that out of your mind forever. Don't even go there, because it's very confusing. It's all about restoring the earth. Blessed are the meek, Jesus said. They're going to have the earth, terra firma, the land, as their inheritance. How would you like to have that? And how would you like to fix the world on a scale on which you haven't seen anything like it yet? How would you like to be, and I repeat this famous statement from Eric Sauer, how would you like to be the official administrative staff, the ruling aristocracy of the future kingdom? That appeal to you? It's a tremendous honor that God has got his eyes on you, testing you. Are you fit to be in that capacity as administrating the new world? That's the challenge of the gospel.